Christian and Muslim leaders in Singapore met this morning to reaffirm the mutual trust and understanding between the two religious communities.
They also condemned the plot by Protestant Christian youth to attack Muslims at two mosques here.
Well, let's talk more about this with our Singapore editor, Zakir Hussain. Welcome, Zakir. So the fact that Muslim and Christian leaders, they met today, does it underscore the severity of this particular case?
I think it does. You know, the fact that this was a student whose plans were very much well formed. You know, if he was not detected, he might have made further preparations. You know, bought the knife. You know, in preparation for his attack on the two mosques in the Woodlands area. And I think even the news of his arrest sent shockwaves through both, I think, Christian and Muslim communities, but also among other religious leaders. And I thought it was significant that this morning the president of the National Council of Churches, you know, paid a visit to Yusof Ishak Mosque, and I think met the Mufti and several other Muslim and mosque leaders there. And also joining them was Mr. Shanmugam, and I think they all gave the assurance that, look, this form of hatred has no place in any religion, and definitely not in Singapore. And at the same time that it's important to continually work to ensure two things: that the young, that religious leaders educate the young that it's wrong to hate any faith or any religion. And also to be mindful of what they come across on the internet, where it was clear the student was radicalized. And I think the second point is that had this attack been carried out, it would have done considerable harm to religious harmony, because I think people would, you could see retaliatory attacks, and you could see, I think, a dip in people basically questioning those of other faiths.
Right. And what about this case is most troubling to you, Zakir? Because you mentioned, he's young, it's his age, whether is it his age, or is it the speed at which he was radicalized, or even his readiness to die in the attacks, or is it something else completely? I
think it's a combination of everything. I think the age is particularly shocking. He's the youngest terror detainee to date. The speed at which he's radicalized, certainly, it seems the Nice attack by a militant in France somehow just radicalized him, and within a month, leading up to his arrest, before he was uncovered, he had made fairly advanced preparations, including planning his route, procuring a tactical vest, thinking about putting stickers and where to fit a mobile phone on his vest so he could record his attack, as well as looking around for weapons. He didn't succeed, but he considered using an assault rifle, explored joining the Singapore Rifle Association. And when he realized that it would be impossible to get a rifle, he decided, actually then explored using TATP explosives to make a bomb, decided too risky. And then that was when he started shopping for sort of, machetes or parang-like equipment online. And he did not purchase, but he had identified the $190 Smith & Wesson machete, kind of, saved it in his online cart on Carousel, and was confident that he could save up enough to buy it by then.
Right, and not only that, of course, he had mapped out the route.
Yes,
to the mosques.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
That's quite troubling, I think.
Right.
And also, I think the speed at which he was radicalized, that's quite startling. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Mr. Shanmugam, he flagged a worrying trend yesterday that 7 young people under 20 years old have been arrested under the ISA since 2015 after getting radicalized through the internet. So, Zakir, why do you think more young people are getting radicalized, especially through online forms?
Yeah, I think this is a very different generation. You could say perhaps COVID-19 and the push towards home-based learning kind of saw more people spending time online. What ISD said last night was basically the student kind of spent a lot of time on the internet from their investigations, and perhaps that was what led him. And he also had a propensity for gore and violent material. In fact, that was how he stumbled upon the incendiary ISIS videos, followed by the Christchurch attacker, the Christchurch terrorists live streaming of the attack, which is still around, followed by the man's manifesto. And I think one thing leads to another, and I think that's troubling. Age in a way, I guess young people, maybe because they're more impressionable, maybe because they've got limited or less exposure to other influences or moderating influences. I think all these play a part in contributing to his, to how he suddenly changed his beliefs and became radicalized. But at the same time, he was also aware of what he was doing. It was not something he spoke about with his friends or even his immediate family. No one, in fact, knew that he was
acting alone.
He was acting alone.
Right?
He was a lone wolf.
Yeah.
And I think that was also the case in the previous terror-related arrests. These were folks who had stumbled upon extremist or radical material in their search for information or just because they were looking up stuff. Yeah. And one thing leads to another. And I think without moderating influences, and I think that that was something the religious leaders appeared to have discussed today when they met as well. How do we... It's not a challenge limited to a particular faith, I guess. In a way, it's a challenge limited to all young people. You could be an environmentalist. You could be, a radical driven by some other cause. How do you avoid going online and being sucked into something, that leads you down this rabbit hole where you actually want to plan an attack?
What more then can government do? Should the monitoring also begin in schools and at home? Yeah. At an even younger age, because that is something that Reverend Lai brought up as well this morning. He talked about the onus is on the community.
That's right,
and schools and at home as well. Yeah.
And I think it's a very valid concern. I think most parents would rightfully be concerned and feel that perhaps you should know what your child is browsing or surfing on the internet. Likewise for schools, right? Every student has their personal learning devices, and I think it is perhaps fair or that there's some limits to what can be accessed on them. I think one bigger concern, and I think this beyond schools but also in society, should governments and should authorities be more proactive in blocking extremist material from being accessed on the internet. This was something that's been going on for several years now, right? Facebook and we see that recently. I mean, Twitter blocked Donald Trump's accounts because he was seen as instigating the Capitol rioters and spreading falsehoods. But it did so in the sort of dying days of his presidency. Maybe a case of too little, too late. Yeah. I see no reason why material like the live stream video of the Christchurch attack should continue to be online. Right? I think YouTube should take that down. Yeah. Yep, or other hosting sites. But the nature of the internet is again one where this material keeps popping up, and if you search enough, you could find it. But I think it does make a difference if, say, such videos, are not available on search engine. The attacker's manifesto continues to be available on the internet, for instance. And I think that's a worrying thing. So I think tech companies need to do much more to stop the spread of such material.
Right.